Zimbabwe zvinhu
ndenda kutobhadhara rendiya nezuro mari yandoda unoshandira kueurope.
Exactly, ndo pane nyaya ipapo.
Then concerning my jobs atanchiti mamido aya like business, marketing, accounting. Okay, welcome to the Great Area Show. Today we are live in the studio. I mean, Mangojarangona online and stuff. And I got my man here.
So we just want to make sure that master asikuzikanwa.
Abusana officer twangi. Okay, so I still disclose an location again. But you know, the thing is, we want to talk more about Zinsnemsor. Because I did run social media. Urba social media, no, I don't go with us but social media, it's more like Zinsnemsor, is it?
Yeah, value kuvana wefu.
Exactly. And it's more about those people in Zimbabwe that always ask, you know, Kuti, what can I do abroad? How can I go abroad? What is life abroad? And you know, the daily life, the person who is living abroad, is he doing the same? 50 cents. Those kind of things. And those are the questions that people also have, you know.
Exactly.
But just to start with, I want to ask you personally, how has been life for you in Europe?
Yeah, I think, first of all, this is such a good thing, because when I was also doing my research to come to Poland, I was always thinking, okay, who can help me? And when I would go online, anyone available the same thing. So this is a good initiative. And to your question, I've been here for 4 years, but it still feels like yesterday. But I can't complain, because one is better than zero.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I can't complain.
Okay, and so are you saying that life moves so fast here to the extent that you might not really see how time is moving?
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, very recently I was going through my gallery and showing my pictures. I'm going to airport, departures, RG. And then shit, 4 years, that's how time flies, you know. Compared to Zim, you know, things are so slow, but everything is just coming thick and fast. So no gonna zongo blink 5 years on this. Roundabout.
Okay, so for starters, we want to talk about the job market, because most people, they want to move for vachitsvaga basa. I know kuti pane a movement iri kunzi vanhu dzokai muzimbabwe, but that's a personal decision. It's not something that you can advocate kuti takuita movement yekuti dzokai, you know.
Yeah.
Because pamune muchiita movement yekuti dzokai, vamwe vanongaita movement yekuti ngatiba.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the job market, let's say specifically for Poland, because I know Europe is very big, and each country has different, you know, regulations and requirements and stuff. So if somebody wants to come specifically for job, how feasible is it, and what are the stages or the processes they need to do, and what kind of jobs do they get?
Yeah, that's a big question, so I'll break it down. The first thing is, firstly, kuya basa direct, especially in the current job market here, Poland, is kind of tricky, depending nekuti basa ripi exactly. For the following reasons. The first one is the scale of globalization irikuramba ichingo increase, meaning other foreigners coming from different countries as well. So if you look at the last 3-4 years back, Poland was still a semi-hotspot. But after the war of Russia and Ukraine, my Ukrainians akawanda katanga kuya 2022. And then after that, the guys from Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, vakatanga kuya. And then you also factor in Africans. So I would say, at a general level, there is more supply of talent than what the market can absorb. So the thing manje ndezvekuti vanhu vari caught between pakati apa pamabasa aya ari pakati ma mid career senior roles ndo ane problem. But kana uri on the higher end, let's say you have a high value skill iri kudiwa sterek, there's actually something called the EU blue card for special occupations. Iwayo hatombonetse kuya ndo vari in demand. Ndo ma-surgeons, pilots of certain experiences, ma-technicians and the likes.
If they want kuma-arts nekuma-commercial ukataita lecture 3500 vanonga vachita vari 10 vari 15 and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So ivavo ndo vanenge vachidiwa. And then on the lower end, ma-factory roles, ma-warehouse roles aya ndo vamwe vanenge vachidiwa. So that's also another option yekuti unokwanisa kuuya uchiita uchi ma-warehouse jobs.
So you can actually come directly uchiita warehouse work here.
Yeah, and then ushanda kuma-factory and then you can start from there. But tricky manje ndo anything else that's in between apapo ndo pane nyaya manje pakuti the competition yakawanda manje pakati marketing, business management, developers, and when you also factor in the development of AI, it gets ugly very quickly.
Yeah, it's a pretty trick. But so what are the chances? Like, if I'm gonna give somebody a percentage of getting that job, let's say for example, a warehouse, well, I'm sure Wanokawanda probably can fit in that category. What are the chances of getting that job? Uriguzim, the no the whole process here, visa and work permit, then auto where?
Yeah, I want to be careful with my answer because I also don't want to raise my hopes, but at the same time also not crush their aspirations. I would say kuya basa, yes you can, but it's also difficult in its way. For one, wariku Southern Africa, Poland only has got one embassy for the 12 Southern African nations. So which means all those 12 nations are using the Pretoria embassy in South Africa.
Okay.
So that also means one appointment date, it's now also difficult. No problem number one yoyo. So pavanhu vanenge vachizouya manje pepe, those are also the challenges you should factor in kuti it's going to take however long it takes. I can't say 3 months or 6 months, but it also depends if you are using a very good agent. Inokwanisa kufambisirawo mapepa ako zvakanaka kuti uwane work permit on time and then also tanga upinda mudraw to apply for the appointment. I also know, the bad news is I also know people who have spent maybe a year and a half vari mudraw vakamirira appointment. That's the challenge.
Okay, I'll get to that visa issue again. So you're saying that my companies that can hire people, they are actually there and they are actually open spaces that a person can apply, but then the issue will be about getting that visa. That is where probably you have the lesser chances.
Yeah. So if I'm to put it in numbers, I would say on a scale of 100, 70% chance of getting a vacancy role kuma warehouse factory, and then 30% chance of getting an appointment ku-embassy on time, because vanhu vakawanda vanongoziva kuZimbabwe tichida zvinhu
ndida kutobhadhara rendiya nezuro mari yandoda unoshandira kueurope.
Exactly, ndo pane nyaya ipapapo. So it's a game of patience as well, but yes maroles unokwanisa kumawana, but pane nyaya ku-appointment.
Okay, quite interesting. Then concerning my jobs, atanchiti mamido like business, marketing, accounting, probably IT, I can place it somewhere there. Can you also apply directly? Because no one wakawanda. That's that patapi nama lecture ku Zimbabwe teach me that 500. Mamaje marozo pina ana 1000, especially ana marketing nana chiche. And so what are the chances of those people getting a job directly in the Polish market?
Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but okay, to just paint a picture of what it's looking like now. I recently graduated, but I'm working a very regular 9 to 5. It's not the 9 to 5, the type of job I was hoping for after I graduate, just because there's also AI and the job market is not in great shape at the moment. So for inini munatori munom, it's quite difficult for me to get those roles. So you can now imagine munari ku Zimbabwe ari apply for that same role yandiri kuaplya kunoku. So yeah, that doesn't
The chances are
play
very
exactly,
low.
that diminishes your chances kana uchiri kuzimbabwe manje.
What about the anointing oil?
Kunoku iyoyo haishandi manje. Kunoku haishandi manje.
Okay, quite interesting. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. So specific. So, what are the alternatives then? If you're somebody who did those degrees, because I'm sure that
Mm.
most people did commercials and art,
Mhm.
and those are the people that probably want to come. What is an alternative
Mhm.
to, like, probably what you did or somebody did?
Yeah, I would say gone are the days zvekuti you could just get on a plane and then woya kunoku and you are guaranteed to get a role. Now you can't just bring a dream and your baggage. You also need to have some sort of plan because the landscape is now generally very, very competitive. So kuuya nebasa directly, that's already out. And the alternatives, in my opinion, I think the best way to place yourself in a better position is to come as a student, because when you come as a student, you absorb the system, you have more time to settle, to create your networks, and you have a credential they value, meaning in education. Yeah. So if you're coming to Poland as a student, when you have that Polish degree, when you're now applying for those roles, you have more weight compared to munhu ari kuapply kana nebachelors rekuzim, because they don't hold our education to a very high standard. So I would say kuuya as a student, and then you get the requisite skills dzinenge dzichidiwa for that roles. Because the other thing manje, kuzim, I know we are more concerned about my qualifications, kuti ndingori nedegree. So kana une degree, let's say management, but you don't have any skill right now, AI is all over the place. So kana usina any technical skills ekuti ukapiwa basa nhasi, what can you deliver? Then you are in a very difficult place. So to answer your question precisely, I would say kuuya as a student is always the best option, but that's if you can afford.
Okay, so I want to take then the steps in that process if you're coming as a student. For example, let's say undergrad or masters, both. What exactly do you need to have financially and academically? Let's start with undergrads, then masters.
Yeah, so for undergrads, wakaita zimsek like me, you are also in a funny position because you need to do a process which is basically recognizing my zimsek certificates ako kunoku ku Poland, so they validate them.
So now I don't want to trust it.
Yeah, education you unfortunately it's not hold to a higher standard. Yeah, zimsek inoshanda kumusha chete, but if you did Cambridge, you are an exception from that process, so you just apply directly kuchikoro. Pandakauya inini, what would happen with this process is ndaito apply nemapepa angu ezimseki wayo, and then they approve me ndotouya kuno, and then I start doing this recognition process. But unfortunately izvezvi vakutoti usati wapiwa nzvimbo nepolice school, kana wakaita zimseki, you should go this notification process yekurecognize macertificates ako. And the harder part about that is you have to do it kunoku ku Poland. So unofanira kutsvaga munhu ari kunoku manje wotumira neDHL and kukuendera kumaoffices acho and doing the whole process. So for ndakaita zimseki, it's kind of tricky, but if you get someone who can help, or I heard there are some schools that can help you with the whole NAVA notification process. So that's for undergrad. But kana wakaita masters, in some instances you are an exception if you can prove kuti wakaita masters rako, wakaita undergrad rako in English. So when you're now applying for masters, now is you don't have to do the notification process, and then once wawana admission letter yako from the school, wakutanga kutsvaga appointment date ku Pretoria, ku South Africa, because we don't have any Polish embassy in Zim, so you have to go to South Africa to process your papers. And then the requirements honestly are pretty basic. It's just you prove you have enough money and insurance, and I think your itinerary and you are good to go.
Okay, then I usually also have people wakaenda ku poly. They ask kuti, how can we go, because vanenge vakaita O level,
Mhm.
then vobva vanoita HND or a diploma something. Can they also qualify?
Yeah, vakaenda kupoli. And it depends with some schools and some programs. So I know there are some schools that say, yes, we can take munagenda kupoli, ne diploma. It's for kana masters, but those are not the type of schools you'd want to enroll in them, quite frankly, given
Mhm.
that if this, it's like University of Warsaw, like one of the best universities in Poland, they are most likely not to pick you kana une diploma chete vanenge vachida, if it's for undergrad vanongoda munhu ane A
A level.
level, or unless the alternative is kana uri kuuya for undergrad une diploma rako,
Mhm.
you can apply ne diploma but also nema A levels ako,
Ah,
because it then gets tricky. And the paperwork manje they don't compromise.
if they want something, you have to deliver.
You have to do it. Vanokuti you can come as an exception. Again, those are not the type of schools you'd want to enroll in.
Why? Why?
I think this is one of the things that a lot of people, is including myself, we don't get right the first time. Because kana uri kuzim, because of how the situation is, you are just more focused on ndiri kuda
Kubuda.
kungobuda mzimu chete, ndiri kuda
Yeah,
kungoenda.
yeah, that's true.
But like I said before, gone are the days where you could just come with your luggage and dreams. Now you need to come with a plan. Okay, I want to work in finance. So which schools place the most graduates into finance industries? And then
Mhm.
you target those type of schools that give you the best chance of getting the type of job that you want.
That's right.
So isisu manje tingori more concerned ndoda kungowana nzvimbo wambotarise ranking yechikoro, reputation yechikoro, the type of professors vanenge vachikudzidzisa. So paunozoenda manje kumaschools aya,
Mm.
sometimes it's even worse because the location is so remote. So wagraduata ikoko, you are now in all these problems dzekutsvaga basa nechichichi. So you need to go to schools and a good reputation so that you can place yourself in a much better
Much
position.
better position.
Because again, it goes back to the fact that it's now super competitive. The job market is now super competitive. So if there's any unfair advantage you can stack on your side, then go for it.
Okay. I think that's quite well explained. Then I
Mm.
want to talk about the location side. Are you saying that if probably somebody comes to Warsaw,
Mhm.
and I think the second largest city here, is it Krakow or something?
Yeah, I think it's
Krakow
Krakow.
or
Yeah.
Gdańsk or
Oh.
Lublin.
Mm.
Is somebody who goes to a school in Warsaw, does he have an advantage over somebody who goes to the second best city or the third best city?
Yeah, I think in the context of Poland, then yeah, definitely. I would say you should just come to Warsaw, to be honest, for everyone, because there's a massive difference between Warsaw and other cities, just in terms of opportunities. Because the way I think about it is, my multinational companies like Awanda, they are headquartered in Warsaw. They have a presence in Warsaw, and a few of them in Krakow. So that also means my opportunities, because when wakawanda, I know to unenge uchiti ndiri kuda kushanda, because as a student you can work full time in Poland. So vanenge vachiti ndoda kuendawo kuchikoro ndichishanda, and even if usiri kuda kushanda uchienda kuchikoro, but after graduation you still need to get that job. During your studies you want that internship. So Warsaw now presents you with more opportunities, especially for my roles aya anongoda English chete. But if you're studying business management in Rzeszów, Turin, or even Poznan, number one, the number of multinational companies in the presence of my cities are ishoma. And that goes to show that even marose English chete anenge ari mashoma, and atidiwo kudzidza language. So it then puts you in a very difficult predicament yekuti unotanga kublema zvimwe zvinhu zvisiri izvo, but iri just a consequence of your choice.
Okay. I think I quite get that. Then I want to get back a bit to talk about issue of fees. Because we talked about my requirements on paper, then the financial side of it. So how much should probably someone save? Let's take it, for example, if you are in computer engineering or marketing or stuff, like the average.
Yeah, I would say Poland is one of the most affordable destinations for studying abroad. At the same time, it doesn't compromise on the quality of education if you get into a good school. So, especially for majority of us Zimbabweans. But I would
Mhm,
say the rough estimation is around anywhere between 4,000 euro on the lower end
mhm.
to about 6,000, 7,000 euro on the higher end, or even up to 10,000 euro. This is per year
Per
just
year.
on tuition. So we're talking about 2 semesters of the academic year, which starts around in October and ends in June,
Mhm.
depending on location, program, and the school as well, which I would say is pretty much affordable if you're comparing with the usual
With
study
other
destinations
countries,
like
yeah.
Canada, Germany, and US.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And if mzimu ndikanzwafika nenda kubvunza kuti because tunoita zverezi kunana MSU nana
Oh,
chichichi.
yeah.
So in the context of Poland, is
Mm.
also that included? Kuti pane patori nerezi and stuff.
Yeah, accommodation kunoku it's a separate cost, but a lot of schools have my hostels. But again, kana kunoku we also want to experience that adulthood life. So one also opt out of my hostels and stay with my shared apartments, which are quite expensive. But honestly, it's manageable. I wouldn't trade it for anything else because I still think Poland is the most affordable study abroad destination.
Okay, so roughly I'm looking at how much per month if I'm gonna be renting out an apartment or something.
Well, 450, 500 on the lower end on a shared apartment. This is in Warsaw, you are very lucky
And
to
these are
get that.
euros, right?
These are euros. So we
And for
can,
the guys, you just convert that to US. It's in US, it's a bit more.
yeah, like a little over 500. And then, kuno over fence, vanogona kugara una Mount Pleasant, Borodale equivalent. You are looking at a
Uh-huh.
studio and upwards of 700, 800 euro. So you get that to USD, you are almost about to hit 1,000.
Okay. No, that's quite good. And to that Econet data rinodhura. Vanhu vari kuchema nedhata adzi vane rimwe riri kuiswa na 1 am kama wakunzwa hope paipe robva rabviswa na 6 am paunomuka.
Yeah, kumusha data is a very big issue, but this is the beauty of Europe. Internet is like is a basic right. For the past 4 years, pandiri kunokuka, I don't even think about Wi-Fi internet. It's like
Mhm.
literally everywhere you go, Wi-Fi is there, data is there. I think I pay less than $10 a month for data, and I
Oh
use
wow.
Econet Kunoku,
Mhm.
which I think is the most expensive.
Okay. So that's and how about transport? Because t-
Yeah, that's
kombi
actually.
unokwira 50 cents kuseni kama kusungwa nero inenge yaita
Nephew,
$2.
yeah, I'm guessing
Oh,
yatokana ku
yeah,
three
$dollar
bucks.
something.
Yeah, this is the one of the best advantages of being a student in Poland. Because kana uri student, no matter which city you are in Poland, you are entitled to a 51% student discount. Kwese kwauri kutravel, even if it's intercity traveling or local your bus ticket.
Okay.
Which is very, very good because I remember when I still had student status in Warsaw, I was paying 55 zloty, which is roughly about $13 a month for unlimited
Everywhere.
travel everywhere. So metro, tram, bus, everything unlimited, which is quite a
Yeah, yeah,
generous
because
deal, to be
that's
honest.
like $10, $12, $13 per month.
Per month.
Ndichienda kuchitungwiza kunotoni ruhwa zimbure park anywhere
And the
anytime.
transport here, I think it's one of the best. Last year I went to Switzerland, got maybe it's a standard EU thing, but
Mm.
transport here in Poland is
It's one of the best.
it's next to none. It's next to none. 24/7, you can get to virtually any destination. It's not even a problem.
Okay, quite interesting. Then for my schools, both for 4,000. I'm
Mm.
thinking. I mean, you just said it like nothing, which speaks a lot about your pocket. But but I know kuti somebody ari kuzvidzwa ari kuti ko idzi dziri kutongotaura kunge dzotara $2. Like for somebody in Zim now, they want to raise that money
Mhm.
and they're thinking like it's a lot for the first year.
Mhm.
Then so what am I going to do in the second year? Because ndopese pandenda toita.
Mhm.
So let's say ndakwanisa already kureza that 4
Mhm.
and I come here ndoshaya basa vangotaura kuti pane pakatowandirwa and sometimes vanhu vari kuno kwacho zvitovatorera time.
Mhm.
Are there also certain hustles totenderedza madhiri? So I know
Yeah.
Europe is too formalized, but
Mhm.
pane zvimwe zvandokwanisa kuitawo here kuti ndikwanise kuita sei ndiwane pekujegera.
Yeah, so two-part question. So the first part is yes, Mario yakawandisa. But kana wauya kunoku when you're also working and you're in a good city, that's fairly affordable. And in most schools, avawanzoda kuti uibhadhare year second one for the first year. You can also pay it for per semester, I think for the first year only. But these are a handful of schools. So in that regard, it then becomes manageable. And then panye mabasa, again, if you are in a city like Warsaw, roles akaita sema-warehouse jobs or factory jobs, those are low barrier pakutanga. So you can always start from there and then you get yourself up. You are most likely to get those roles and unokwanisa kumbojegera ipapo kana usiri munhu ako anosarudza uchimbowana mari and then you can proceed. And then coming to the part of mahustles apapo, yeah, I know pese paundo even pandakatoyo kunoko I was always thinking kuti okay ndoita what hustle can I do, but I'd say this is where the difference of Europe and Africa now comes in, because kuAfrica we are always in survival mode, just ndoitei kuti ndiwane mari ndiite something.
Exactly.
But kana wauya manje kuno ku-Europe, the system is structured in a different way where it needs long-term planning, patience, networking. So hustle raunoita munomu in a formalized economy, I would say it's quite difficult if you are not doing drugs or something really illicit like that, which you don't want to get into, unless kana wakabvawo kuzimu newo hustle rako rawagara uchitoita. And then orunza kuno maybe it's an online business or something like that. I would say that's maybe the only hustle you can do. But in terms of maybe selling stuff in person, yeah, zviriko zvinhu zvaunongochitengesawo zvinhu zvekumusha chichichi, but it's like far-fetched. But I would say you just want to do the right thing instead of play the long-term game, because zvatosiyana.
But warehouse akufiwe here mdara, because ukangoti warehouse zvinhu zvandisitoona mahora.
Yeah, so mabasa angu tu ekutanga pandakataura, one was kubakery and the other one was warehouse, DPD, like an equivalent of DHL, kwekuchipekwa ma-parcels. One thing I'd say is I wouldn't trade that experience for anything else. It was very hard, as it should, but it's a good experience. Plus ndichiri mwana mudiki chiri kutekwa dziro kudarova, so simba richiripo. You always have to do it. But what I'll tell you is vanhu vekunoku kana kuri kunzi kuri kuenda kubasa ka kuri kuenda kubasa, because I know kumusha unogona kumboenda kana kubasa kwemunhu onzi ari palunch na11 wozodzoka na2.
Exactly.
Kunoku you are paid per hour, so it's like every minute rauri kushanda they want to squeeze every juice out of you. So yeah, kunoshandwa, but it's hard but not impossible.
Even ladies, can they manage that?
Yeah, ladies can manage, but of course avazoito my heavy duties like anenge achiitwa nevakomana. So you can manage, but I know a lot of girls vakashanda kuma-factories. Okay. It's hard, but not impossible.
It's doable.
Yeah.
How about taxis and restaurants and stuff? Are there places there which people can get into those sectors as well?
Yeah, my restaurants anowanika, but it's mostly dishwashing because it's hard to be a waitress because of the language. But unokwanisa kuwa nawo yende. But the other good thing is if you come to Poland, you just need to learn Polish, because if you learn Polish, you widen your pool of choices in terms of mabasa. Because even zvakaita sema-restaurants, you can also apply for my customer-facing roles as opposed to maybe like a dishwasher or something like that. Okay. So that's also possible. And then kunyayema taxis, Uber, yes, you can do it, but you also need to do the license conversion. I'm not so sure about that, but I wanted to do it at some point, and I remember then the international license, I had to do the conversion, registration, but I also have a couple of friends who are doing the same thing. It's
very sustainable.
The numbers behind it, I can't speak too much about that because I'm a layman in that regard. But The fact that ndoona shamwari dzangu dzichizviita, they've been doing it for like 7 or so months and paying their rent.
So which means it's actually cool because I'm sure even in Zim people are living with InDrive as well.
Yeah, ungoti idrive wele nyaya dzayo.
Okay, then you mentioned something about language, which you say that I think it's good that when you get get here you should do. Then I'm thinking like 80% of people that I know that are Zimbabweans, they don't speak that language. Why is it a necessity? And then, but it's not like people take it as a necessity.
Yeah, I think the root cause number one is for us Zimbabweans, we generally like easy stuff. And we like leaving everything up to chance. And this is not even our fault, it's just how the system is structured back home. We are always in survival mode. And we like leaving everything up to chance. So ukauya kuno kuchiti autaure Polish. Yes, you can survive. I also don't speak Polish, in as much as I hate to admit it. But that's one of my biggest regrets, because if I had learned Polish, social integration into the community would have been so much better. And the same goes for even access to opportunities. Because if you only speak English, then that means mu job market, you are only looking for my English speaking roles.
Okay.
So just by the virtue of the law of numbers, it then shrinks my options. Kunari kudachi English chat. So that also means my client facing roles like marketing you are no longer eligible for those roles because pachadiwa muna ne Polish kuti ataure chi nevamwe. So munhu anenge achitaura Polish neEnglish ato ahead of you. And even my multinational companies mamwe acho akawanda akutoti we also want at least conversational level of Polish. So the situation you end up with is TSS tisingaite Polish, we end up in a situation where we are just applying in this tiny pond of my English only roles. That's your customer service and a few non-client facing roles and in my multinational companies. So if you just learn the language, you'll be doing your world a big favor.
It's a plus for yourself.
Yeah, it's like a plus. Also, not to mention things like better social integration, better networks with the fellow Polish people, and just generally enjoying the country. Because if you don't speak Polish, then it means you are segregated. Community Shona or English, which might not be as fun.
Okay, which was actually my next question after this study and the financial stuff about social life. You know, to don't win up a bridge. So boys, packet to amana chi makona zvakaita kana Mbappe rene zuro vaitamba ne Brazil chichichi that can just those 15 minutes kana umbonorwa sunuka pa shops tongono chila porwa sunuka 15 minutes 20 minutes ndodzokera pa 10. How do you guys do that part here? I'm sure you have to substitute it with something.
Exactly.
And what exactly is that thing?
Yeah, I think this is where people then complain, or not complain as such. This is where depression comes in. Because in a perfect world, I would combine the economic way of life, the social life, and then that would be the perfect world. But like they say, you can't have it all. Exactly. Trade off. But in terms of social life, I would say life moves thick and fast, and it's just work and paying bills. If you're not working, you are paying bills. If you're not doing any of those, you are sleeping and waiting to pay bills. So, but kuzim, like you said, a bridge because there is very little to do. But kunoko, if you don't work, you're not going to eat. So social life I say kuti munhu anongori kana auya padheni pako kuti simba ndauya padheni aiwa you have to schedule kuti simba ndakuuya gatitei chakati. But it's one of those where you need to force the issue kutoti okay Saturday ndichatongozviforsa kubuda because ukasadaro you're always tired and you always want to rest. So social life, yeah, you just need to make that trade-off.
Okay, quite interesting. Now, I'm thinking, you know, life is good to go gara my apartment and I mean, that should be very depressing and stuff. But are they like Zim communities then? Equity so it was Adam say Saturday. Kana
Mhm,
tikaenda kana pakati pane mazimba, you know, that kind of thing.
mhm,
Ekuti musi Saturday kana wakangochila unokuza nongosangana neboys pakati oro ndoenda
mhm,
restaurant yakati.
mhm,
Like what probably mamwe nationalities do, but I
mhm,
see like there's a place for Vietnamese, sort of like
mhm. Yeah, that's true.
if you go there you just see my Vietnamese there and stuff, and I'm sure with the other nationalities also do that. Do symbols have that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I would say the Zim community generally in Poland iri kuramba ichikura as each year passes by. And yeah, I think there's a Zimbabwean restaurant called African Nest. And then my communities are equal, but you also need to put in effort into them. Okay, you are part of the community, to put in effort in terms of contributing and just being proactive about it. Because hapana munhu achangoya kwauri wachiti uya tiite chakati. And my church, we have several AFM assemblies, several Zioja assemblies. So that's also a good community. But kunoko it then becomes tricky pakuti muwinter paipai hapana munhu arikuda kubuda mumba kuri kutonhora, munhu ari kuenda kubasa arikuda kugaramba, so ma-outdoor activities anenge ari mashoma. But musama, I know there's also Zim link up, mazim artist anenge achiuya, vanhu vanenge vakuendawo out a lot
Out
more.
on those,
But it's never that big community yemunhu wese. It's just in small circles based on my friend group. But you won't really feel lonely. You will be fine. You will be fine.
Okay, quite interesting. Then there's this thing that you guys don't really talk about when you're talking about these salaries and stuff. Because kuzimbo tikanzwa kuti mtulingi ataura 1% tax on sugar, tokunongocomplaina bara ndogona kusaifila because handioni kuti yatorwa papi, pamwe ndaishandira yatotorwa ichi. Then here when you say that the salary is probably 5,000, then I'm expecting my 5,000. I think the first time I came I was told that and I was above 26 already. Then Maria is probably one third.
Apo unenge wakatoiplana
Because
kudhara
then
wakatoidya.
budget 5,000, then rupinda iri 3.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that, and what are also the advantages of that?
Yeah, I'll say before I get to that, one of the advantages of also studying in Poland is if you are under 26, mari yako zero income tax, just like in Dubai. If you are under 26 and you are still a student. But after that, you also need to pay tax, like in the insurance, pension funds, and the likes. But kuno kumanje, because the system is so functional and formalized, tax is non-negotiable. I remember my first paycheck ndakaona ichiuya ndagraduata ndisisina student status, ichiuya yakatorwa pension, social security contribution. It was my first time paying tax because kuzim ndaisashandi, so ndaisatomboziva zve-tax. And it just dawned on me, because I'm not an adult, and you cannot negotiate your way out of it. And it's one of those things where no one tells you before wauya, unotozongozviona wauya kunoko. Vanhu paunozonzwa kuti uri kutambira mari ikoko, and you translate it to USD, you're like, okay, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 USD. Anochi, uri kuwana mari yakawandisa, because they are thinking of it in the context of Zim, and they are not wrong either to think about that. But when you then put it into perspective, which maybe 20% or close to 40% of your salary is going to tax, that then becomes an issue. You factor in the cost of living. So
you're saying roughly 30% goes to tax?
Yeah, it depends. If you no longer have student status or under 26, I think they take about 20.5 or 21% of your salary as insurance and the pension funds. But can already over 26 usina student status, I think we're talking about close to 40, maybe I think it's somewhere between 35 and 40 if I'm not mistaken. That's a good question. I don't think we will get it because Paunozoshika eligible in terms of age. Most of us won't.
Also, you can't claim it if you're below 65.
Yeah, I don't think you can claim it if you're below 65 because this is Kurumiza Buddha. So it then becomes an issue.
But I heard somebody achiti seni kana wakuda kubuda unogona kuclaima kana uchida kubuda uchiziva kuti hauchadzokeswa muchose. There might be an option yekuti unogona kuclaima mari yako yawakambotorerwa. Is that true?
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that, because the other thing is, Zimbabweans in general, this is just a generalization here, tinotyira zvinhu kure. But because kune mutemo like my tax returns and stuff like that, because hatizviite kuumba again and toya kuno kutakura hapana munhu anokugarisa pasi achikuudza zvinhu. But option like what you just mentioned, it could actually be true zvekuti unozviita, but that's where so the essence of using my lawyers, my tax lawyers and accountants now come into effect, because they can help you navigate these nuances. Because kana ungori wega iwewe, you might actually not know anything. Wotongoisiya when you can actually claim it.
Okay, quite interesting. Then on that issue also, I want to talk about health. Because panobatwa marabo, which means I'm sure panobata even the health.
Health insurance.
And looking at home, I'm sure health is one of the most expensive things. Whether you have a medical aid or you don't have, probably munogonosanganiswa somewhere. And what is the difference now with this system? If I get an emergency, do I also need to also have money? So didn't bandato badara, or they help you also kubila, or you're covered by that insurance, and all those things. How does it work?
All right. So the good thing, in fact, the good news about this whole situation is insurance. It's not like also we are also it actually works, and it also depends on the package insurance. Inini, I have a very basic package, so it covers my general consultations, but can also know my specialists, or if my operations, or if your health situation is a little bit complicated, then maybe insurance you're going to also cover this, and you have to pay extra. But one thing for sure is it will definitely work. And whilst we're on that note, I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is having a health insurance. And again, I know it's the easiest thing to do is think with again, because of the system back home. But I remember even in the I'm a gym guy, but I went to the hospital like 2 or 3 times in this insurance, and the amount of money I had to pay, it was way better for me to just pay for that insurance, because passport usina insurance. It's actually crazy. And the other fundamental thing is about my health, my funeral insurance and stuff like that, because I'm sure like very recently we've been hearing the one also like sudden death because of several situations, and then they are now doing my GoFundMe to repatriate board, which is something that could have been avoided. My funeral policy, that's also a major issue. And again, the easiest thing is to assume bad. And I have to be honest enough. It didn't story now that funeral policy, but it's something that I'm definitely going to do very soon.
So how much does probably a basic package costs for things like funeral policies?
Yeah, funeral policy, I can't remember this other one I know, but it's like 50 zlotys, which is about
$12.
Yeah, $12, something like that. And again, it also depends on the package, but the basic one is like $12 a month. And then for insurance, vanowanzoitora pasalary, so it is automboona zvafamba sei, and in most contracts iyo manje itori mandatory, so autombobvunzwe.
So it actually means, let's say ndikazoita problem, especially yavanotora, you can get help for free at general hospitals.
Yeah, 100%, which is a very good thing.
Okay, even on complicated issues, or vakazokuendesawo kana kuma medicals and ngari specialist ndokwanozotowedzera. But on most cases, probably like giving birth and all this stuff, you can be assisted for free.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the insurance is quite generous. It covers a lot of the things. But paunozodo my specialist doctors, my gynecologist, dermatologist, do paunozongo badara that extra. But again, the insurance is honestly quite generous.
Okay. Then I want to go to the family side of it, because at some point You know, Truba boys, at some point, somebody would want to start a family.
Eh.
Or other people were allowed to move on or to run a family already.
Mhm.
I've had people inquiring, "Was to but I want to move. How can I do it?" But let's talk about those that have not yet started a family and they're planning to start a family here. But then you hear these Euro states like the birth rate is declining,
Uh-huh.
raising a child is very expensive in this country and stuff. And now you're thinking we didn't probably into that one of five.
Yeah.
And I want to migrate to them.
Mhm.
Is it feasible to raise like a bigger family, or then you will have to lower down your expectations?
Yeah, I'm one of them vari kuda wedzawo kuita mhuri vasati vanayo. But
Okay, so can there be candidates on the to do that?
I will get in trouble. But what I'd say is Poland in general,
Mm,
it's more ideal if you are still single in terms of just working and the dynamics of all things. But kutanga family uri kunoku, yes, it's possible. I mean, recently there's a new law which was passed yekuti if you have 2 children
mm,
in Poland, you are exempt from taxes. But I'm not
mm,
so sure if it applies to foreigners as well, because they're also trying to increase the birth rate. But I would
okay.
say the most important thing pakutanga mhuri pesapa is just munhu wacho wekutotanga naye, in the sense that kunoku kuzimu like vasikana vaiti kana uchikwira mukombo uri kuendapo uri kukumbirwa nhamba uri kuita sei, but kana wauya kunoku, I've heard my female friends complaining kuti I go for 2 months pasina munhu amboti pisi kana kuti just by the mere fact yekuti proximity yako kune mamwe mazimbabweans ka kana usiri kusangana nawo kuchikoro or kuchurch or masocial circles which we hang out very little kunoko, hautombowani chi vanhu vacho. Plus also, you know, paunenge uchiuya kunoko your expectation goes higher, so vanenge vachitiwo ndichadana nevarungu umwe chichi, and everyone is also working, so it then becomes very difficult. But in terms of raising a family, I would say it's quite difficult pakuti hakuna maid, so munofanira kubatsirana muri 2 kana paine kamudhoni, and inonzi care work, baby caring, pamai muri kubasa paipai amai muchida munhu anosara nemwana,
so
that's also like around $20 an hour munhu anenge achifanira kusara nemwana. Yeah, so that also becomes difficult in that regard. That's why in my opinion I would say Poland is more for vapana vachiri kumhanya-mhanya or vaya vachangotanga mhuri but pasati panewo vanhu. This is not to say it's impossible to raise a family. It is, but I just think it's quite difficult based on my observations on vanhu vari kuedzawo kuraisa mhuri vari kunoko.
Okay. Then I wanna ask this question about mari inopiwa vanhu vane vana. Maforeigners anopiwa. I heard somebody say that mwana wangu anopiwa mari every month, like what they do in South Africa, kuti kana une mwana anopiwa mari every month. Here in Poland, they do that also for foreigners and stuff.
So the thing is, all those incentives are meant to increase the birth rate in Poland, because if you look at the economics of their age group, it's like, okay, kwazara vanhu vakuru, so vari kuda chivapana mayouth mashoma. So if you put it into perspective, it's like, why would they incentivize maforeigners ari kuita vana when the whole point of the situation is we want to have more birth rate yema-wise so that their population keeps increasing. So I don't think that applies to maforeigners wekuti unopiwa mari pemwana. That's a stretch, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Quite interesting. Very interesting. Then I think apart from all this stuff, I want to go back to that point and go start out. No going to my friends around that I need 2 months in this now morning. Is it because there are more men than women, or the men that are there are still young? Both can I test it through my 25-year-olds, male and female? She's thinking of getting married. And I'm thinking of downloading iPhone 18, you know, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So where do that gap emanates from?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is, let's just look at the numbers. Most people who come to Poland, it's nursing, right? vanhu vakawanda vanouya vachita nursing vasikana.
Mhm.
So the ratio of girls to boys is not even. It's not even close. There are a lot of girls, right?
Okay.
So vakomana vashoma. Tasvika pavakomana asati ataura kuti vaune access navo in terms of vauri kugara musame city, vaunokwanisa kuona because muri kuenda same church or same chikoro or same kubasa. Asati ataura kuti vakareba zvaunoda, vakanaka zvaunoda,
ungatozombozikonzidhere kaunonga kutongoti chauya.
ndo kwazvinozopedzera zvasvika in most cases, unless kana if you have mutual friends. So the mating factors point towards difficulty in all these relationships, because kuti utosangana nemunhu wacho in the first place, that's also very difficult. So kuvasikana vanenge vaine maoptions mashoma. Also if you factor in the fact that, like you rightly say, kuti vakomana kwanda vari kuuya kuno tiri vapana, so and I don't know, there's no balance. It's like vakomana kwanda vari kuuya kuno tiri vapana, so zvekutanga mhuri it's not even in the picture at the moment. And then pari kuuya vanhu vatori nemhuri vakatoroora kudhara vakasiyawo vana misisi vavo kuzima. So of course ivavo they're already out of the market. So it then leaves us with this huge vacuum and imbalance in terms of dating. That's why you can have girls under 2-3 months vasina kumboti psimun, because you are just not seeing those people. And paunoona maybe pamwangomona mutram or mbhazi kana kuti chii, and you just don't talk. I always joke and say kuti ukaona munhu waunoda kuno like wekumba and autaura naye ipapo kwete kuti ukamona uzoti ndokunazomona next set ostaura hauchamuone. Best case scenario ukazomona ane munhu zvinenge zvatodhakwa.
Okay, so what could be the ideal solution then for a lady? Is it like, if you want to come, don't come expecting to meet someone here? Probably before I go that, I want to discuss an option of intercultural relationships and marriages and stuff. I know for guys probably we're a little bit conservative in terms of that, but I think for ladies probably they're a bit adventurous, like getting a white guy and stuff. But then the language issue also. What are the chances then of somebody who is in Zim wants to come and probably is looking to start a love life here interculturally?
Yeah, ipapo it's a very big issue. I think the first obvious reason is language barrier. And then secondly, yeah, of course vakomana togona kuuya chitoda kutesta, vasikana vanenge vachitwa tiri kudawo vari uko, but because of low social integration and cohesion between isusu mablacks nemapolish acho, the only options remaining is like going on the T app, ndo paunokwanisa kuona vanhu ipapo, and then you do your thing. And that's a problem on its own. But of course varipo, I know a few of my friends vano vasikana varungu and vasikana vanenge vachiexperimentawo nevarungu, but in my opinion there's a lot to that.
Like what? Sustaining the relationship or what?
Okay, this is my school of thought, and the way I say it is, for vasikana, the type of white guy they are likely to get, the type of white Polish guy they are likely to get, is not like an 8, 9, 10 type of guy wekuti vamwe vasikana mapolish vanenge vachitodawo. Usually it's like the 4-5 version Polish guys wekuti they're also having a hard time getting their counterparts mapolish vasikana variwo ma7-8-9 we good quality vaiva. So of course because this mablacks we have a certain stereotype iri positive kuvarungu nekuti ndoda kuona kwachi ndine.
But I'm sure they don't mind. You know, there's a story that I heard. There was this homeless white guy in Sim, and there was a video that went viral. You know, he's homeless and stuff. Then the guy told me, "It's like, Leko, do you know that when we did that video, inbox yakazara, and my ladies were like, ndinomuchengeta ndinomugezesa inini noti murungu." Then the guy heard it, no, but inini handisi kutengesa breed rangu zvekumha. So akabva
That's
akwidza
hilarious.
price
That's
kana
hilarious.
uchitondida ndisa marine. So I was like, there are actually people that are willing to export a white death jet for breed.
Yeah, kunoku ndozvinozopedzisira zvaitika, but in most cases what you see, like I said, is kuti vasikana vazopedzisira vawanawo like a low value guy from the Polish side, and even for vakomana isiso it's the same. Inini, when I'm going for a Polish white lady, I'm very likely to get at least a 3, 4, or 5 at best. Wekuti it's very rare kuti I can get an 8 version of a Polish girl. Wekuti other Polish guys vari kutodawo that same
That same
scanner.
lady.
I'm not saying it's impossible across the board. Of course, there will be a few exceptions.
Nigerians anozviita still.
But for the most part, okay, but look at the type of people they are with. You look at them and say, kurei, or it's not. I always say vanhu vaya vekuti vasina wow factors vekuti ukatarisa you wouldn't be like, oh, okay, like it's always. But again, this is just my school of thought, so don't come for me in the comments.
Okay, quite interesting. I think lastly, I just want to close on business, where I'm sure like we talked about when somebody is starting and stuff. Let's say they are already here, and now you're growing. Probably was it our family at 1, 2 and stuff. And my shifts are with. Are the opportunities then that you can start a certain business or that language again and stuff? I was supposed kuzimba kungonzi you register company ndotovhura ndera here is it different?
Yeah, in terms of business, I would say one of the best places to do business, because even from a tech standpoint, I think if your business, you have a certain threshold, tax if you are doing, let's say maybe more than 500,000 zloty in revenue, which is about 125,000, yeah, of revenue in a year, 125,000 USD. So then you would have built a strong base corporate tech. So in that regard, that's a big advantage. And the second advantage is you have talent. So co-founders and people you want to build businesses with, that's a very good place for that. And also Poland is slowly becoming a good hotspot, especially for my startups and business in general. I mean, post-COVID, Poland is one of the fastest growing GDPs and economies. Yeah, so it just goes to show the amount of opportunities that are here. And if you factor in infrastructure, we're talking about data and Wi-Fi earlier on. It's just always there. And even for my startup, there are my incubators. You can register, you can pitch your idea, and just the level of exposure, my expos, my events, and like some global business leaders. So if you then factor in this, it like creates a very good cocktail that makes the business environment conducive in general. It's just up to you, Moon, okay, let me be open-minded, let me explore, let me put myself out there. Ndisagare idea, because everyone has ideas, but what's more expensive is execution. So I'd say, I mean, it's really a good opportunity, to be honest, if you just take it upon yourself and say, I'm going after it. And to also answer your language, you can also now the language. You can also use my lawyers now in terms of my legal contracts or representing you, registering your companies, though it comes at a cost.
Okay, quite interesting. This is now the last. So I thought also, but I started a business about real estate and property. You know, because the dream of us Zimbabweans, most people raised by Chiroja and stuff, and we experienced landlords, and you don't want to experience that again. So the dream is like I want somewhere. That's why when I just was scam on my stains and stuff, because when I got that packet to be free, then coming here in Poland. I know probably getting land might be difficult, but then buying apartments, are there ways that you can finance that? And do they also include foreigners into their plans?
Yeah, that's a great one, and just reminded me. I think a couple of months ago, I attended this men's conference of Africans in Poland, and there was this guy from Ethiopia. he has this idea of starting an African bank that loans out money to African
Africans.
entrepreneurs. So he was thinking of bringing together the most influential Africans vari mu-EU muno vane mari vave, and then they put their funds together. So they become sort of a venture capital firm to start giving out loans kuvanhu kutanga business. So the first option is that you can just get together as 3, 4, 5 people as your friend group, and then you raise money and you buy property. Property because you buy it in zlotys, it's not as expensive as buying it like in your Dubai,
US or,
UK, US,
okay.
something like that. And when you then rent it out, you are almost guaranteed rent yako inenge ichiuya, because unlike kuzinga kuti vanhu vanyanyotsanangura stereki parent. So real estate is honestly, it's a very good opportunity. And I think the other advantage is if you buy a property, you can also get permanent residence. So just by the virtue of buying that property. But of course, it has a certain threshold of value. So that's just a very good opportunity. Honestly, the reason why I haven't done it is just purely from a money standpoint. But if I had money, I would do it within a blink of an eye.
Okay, then how easy are loans? How is it easy to get a loan here? Because I remember there was a time I walked into a bank. He just saw my residence card and he's like, "How should I loan it?" I was like, "Oh, why are they persuading me to get a loan?"
Yeah, panenge paine interest inozouya, so that's how banks also make money. But kana une TRC, now it's a different situation. It's now just a question of, okay, what's the maximum amount they can give you? But I also know very, very few people who manage to get financing, my mortgages, kutenga my apartments, stuff like that. It's definitely not impossible. And again, it all goes back to networking. Who do you know? Right? So if you just know the right people, they can show you the laws, some of the opportunities that you have. But can uchine a visa and uchangotanga wangogara like less than 5 years, then I would say it's quite tricky.
It's quite tricky.
Yeah.
Also, once you spend more time, you actually become open to acquiring, like you're talking about business, even about loans and all these other things and avenues.
Yeah, because like the longer you stay, the more networks you have, the more money you would have raised, and the more proven you are in the financial system in terms of like spending ako, kana wambotora ma short-term loans,
and everything.
So it's like they have enough financial data to make a decision. Okay, should we give this guy mortgage or not? So that's definitely a possibility.
Okay, quite interesting. Thank you so much, Mr. Max. I'm sure you guys have heard it and you are inspired also to if you have more questions, I'm sure you can follow him on his TikTok, right? TikTok is what?
TikTok, Simbarashe Vushe kuberekwa.
Simbarashe akatiitira tite zvekunzi liu chakadaro chichi. And on the Big Mac. Okay, so Simbarashe in TikTok and on YouTube as well, right?
TikTok. YouTube ndoita dzekubaba dzavamwe.
Okay, quite interesting. I'm sure if you have any more questions and stuff, you can link up with him. You will definitely assist you, probably for a fee sometimes, because time here, like you said, it's very expensive. People are paid on how much time you work. So yeah, thank you so much. Cheers.